What is good, YouTube? Katana here, and today this is basically a basic guide on how to be offensive and defensive on a stand blade, kind of giving you different bar setups to look at when you go open world and dueling and things like that. And so let's get into it. So typically, in terms of races, you either want to be orc or wood elf. Those are basically the best in slot races. I would say just for the fact that orc has so much damage, and on top of that, it has great healing this patch. And before anybody asks, too, in the comments, yes, this is the new skin. There you go, just the case. And then wood elf has penetration at all times. In terms of Mundus, completely preference to you, and food as well. Good Munduses to look at is Warrior, um, Shadow. I think it's called Shadow. Basically increases your crit damage and crit healing. And you could use Serpent if you feel like your sustain lacks that much. The penetration Mundus you probably don't need because you might be over penetrating depending on what you're using. And in terms of food, I typically would go either lava or tam. But if you feel like you need sugar skulls to sustain mag, then go right ahead. But typically on a stand blade, you don't need to sustain your mag like that. You shouldn't or wouldn't run out that quickly. Now, in terms of my character sheet, if I was looking at it, I typically look at my max stam recovery, and weapon damage, just like my other stam classes. But the great thing about this new patch is that I can see things like my penetration instead of just kind of doing the math out in my head. So it's pretty great in that sense. So I would look at penetration as well. Um, you don't want to have you could have around 12k penetration, but typically when you're fighting people, especially in this meta and in this patch and no proc Cyrodiil, you will probably be over penetrating. Now, if this was like the last patch where everybody had a lot of resistances because of the sets they were wearing, then maybe you would have been fine. But this patch, you would probably be over penetrating. Um, I also don't have all my CP in, and the build I'm wearing right now isn't no proc Cyrodiil setup. It's just random sets I just put on my character just so I could show you guys, a character sheet and combos and things like that. Now, as you can see, my crit resistance is low. Again, I didn't put my CP and this build isn't really set up for PvP like that. But typically, I'd like to have higher crit resistance than this. Even in this meta, Malakath isn't used as much, so crit damage is gonna go dummy. Even though weapon crit and spell crit got nerfed, you could still hit harder now because it's vanilla ESO and you're not using as much crit. So what I would be looking at first is my weapon damage, my penetration, my stam recovery, max stam. I would most definitely change my max health if this was an actual build because it's too low. And then, I would look at my critical resistances. I don't typically look at my normal resistances on my Nightblade because, you know, I play 2H and bow and I typically roll a lot. And that's the thing about Nightblade. It's like the assassin class of the game, and it's very elusive with high burst. It's, I would say, arguably the hardest hitting burst in the stam category of classes. Now, in terms of skills that you could use, this is typically what I would use in a 1v1 scenario. Incap, Vigor, Rally, Surprise Attack, Relentless Focus, Camo Hunter. Then we have Venom Arrow, Shuffle, Dark Cloak, Mass Hysteria, Leeching Strikes, Soul Siphon. And again, you could use this in open world as well. Things you could swap out is putting an Execute on your front bar, so Executioner, and then putting Resolving Vigor on your back bar, so replacing Shuffle with Resolving Vigor. You could also swap out having Incap on your back bar and putting Dawnbreaker on your front bar, or you could just play with your skills a little bit. So Nightblades have a lot to pick from, especially you could even replace Mass Hysteria with Shade or Shuffle or Dark Cloak, depending on how you feel comfortable and how it fits your playstyle. Some people could survive without Dark Cloak. Some people could survive without Shuffle. Some people don't use Mass Hysteria because they're like using Surprise Attack as a CC anyways. So it's completely up to you. Some people like the other morph of Dark Cloak. I typically don't use it, and it basically puts you into stealth automatically when you press it. So as you can see right now, I'm not in stealth, but if I was using the other morph, it would put me straight into stealth. What I like about this morph is that it gives you a decent heal. As you can see, it's ticking for 1.7 to 2.9, and on top of that, it gives you your armor buff, as you can see right there at the bottom, so you get a little bit more tanky every time you use it. So let's talk about bursting on a STAMNB. Now, a big thing, as you can see, relentless focus, my triangle ability. If you light attack 5 times, hold on, let me throw this away so you guys can see that it's actually 5 times. If you light attack 5 times, you will build up that bow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a bow. Boom. Now, another way to build it up that maybe a lot of people don't know about is you could heavy attack 2 times, then light attack 1 time, and you could build up that same bow. So 1 heavy attack, 2 heavy attacks, 1 light attack. Well, that was kind of more of a medium weave, but you get it. Then boom, you have a bow. So those are the 2 different ways of getting a bow. And obviously you can mix and match as you please, but know that if you heavy attack, it builds up 2 stacks. And if you light attack, it builds up 1 stack. And if you medium weave, it builds up 1 stack. So that's just to keep that in mind. Now, another big thing when you're being offensive on a STAMNB is you always want to hit your target from the flank. Now, a lot of people don't do this. And what I mean by the flank, it's either, you know, this side, you know, from behind them, or from this side. So the sides are the back. Now, you do this because of a few things, and I'll show you right now. First thing is, as you saw, my target became off balanced because of surprise attack. That way you could CC your opponent and off balance them. And on top of that, they added a new thing to surprise attack, which is called Sundered Status Effect, which basically is a dot. So as soon as you surprise attack them from the flank, you can pretty much apply a dot to them. Another reason why you'd hit them from the flank is because of Camo Hunter. I have it slotted so you get that Major Savagery, which increases your weapon critical, and you get Minor Berserk, so which increases your damage done when you hit your opponent from the flank. Now, another reason you want to attack from the flank is because of, where is it? It's probably in this it was definitely in this skill line, like I thought. I just went over it. Okay, yeah, it was the first one. But yeah, again, lastly, this right here, increasing your physical and spell penetration against enemies that you are flanking by 2.9k. This is what I'm talking about when it's very possible to overpenetrate on a STAMNB especially. It's because around 12k penetration, you start getting diminishing returns, so you don't want to go that crazy. I'm using a greatsword right now too, and I have 8.4 physical penetration. So yeah, you just kind of want to be careful with that in terms of like when you're looking at your character sheet and all that. But it's why you don't really have to build too much into penetration on a Nightblade in general. And this is why you have to pretty much always try to hit them from the flank. It's because you do that much more damage to them from the flank. Now, big things to keep up. Obviously, the pre-buff would be something like light attack, leeching, light attack. Oh wow, I missed my light attack because I was jumping. Light attack, dark cloak, light attack, shuffle, light attack, rally, and then you know you go back to your back bar and you start getting ready to go offensive. The reason why you go back to your back bar is because you're gonna want to click light attack, venom arrow, and then you know as usual, press vigor when you're going offensive, and if you start getting hurt, you go back and start rebuffing in general. I know it looks like the buffs drop pretty quickly, but they don't drop as fast as you think. So if we're looking at the offensive combo, it would be something like this. You light attack Venom Arrow, say if you're far distance, which typically you would be. So you would do roll or something like that, or just start moving towards your opponent and light attack Venom Arrow, light attack Venom Arrow, and then I would just do a heavy attack into a surprise attack, another heavy attack into a surprise attack, medium weave, and then into a bow. Most of the time, if you're in open world, you can pretty much kill someone just like that, especially right now. You probably don't even have to surprise attack that many times and use your bow. But say if for whatever reason you do end up having to do that and you're not hitting them from the flank, so you're doing less damage, you just let that bow rip. Now, a big thing that a lot of people probably also don't realize is the fact that in cap stuns. So as you can see, I mean, not that it stuns, but it shows when you are able to stun with it, which is kind of cool. As you can see, it's green right now. So if I was fighting an opponent and I were to just throw it at them, it would stun them. But say if I start building it up again, let's build it up to the point where, you know, it's usable again. But again, as you can see, always just hitting them from the back, hitting them from the flank. As soon as you get your bows, don't throw them willy-nilly. Because even though a Stamblades combo is very simple, where it's just basically surprise attacks and then relentless focuses, you still don't want to throw your bows like whatever. Typically, you want to throw it when someone roll dodges. You know, you fear them, you go back to your front bar, you throw a bow. You'll pretty much always hit them with it. Or as soon as they're roll dodging, you could, if you time it correctly, you could surprise attack them right there and CC them. But anyways, as you can see, my in cap, it's red, and so obviously when it starts going up again, it's going to turn green, and that's when you could stun them. So offensively and defensively, that's pretty much the rotation. I mean, there's no concrete rotation, like you don't have to light attack spam and light attack weave in between everything. A big thing that I see a lot of people do is just light attack from a distance like this to build up their bow. If you're fighting anybody that's decent, they know you got a bow coming, so as soon as you come in, they're just gonna burst your hairline off or block the bow and then burst you. Either way, it's just not a smart thing to do. What I would do is, again, light attack bow. You know, you get a little closer to them, maybe a heavy attack, surprise attack, another heavy attack, surprise attack, and again that would be 5, so you would have a bow by then, and then you do maybe a heavy attack into a bow or like a medium weave into a bow. So it's a lot more simple than you think. This class, if you like, you know, an assassin feel, this is most definitely a very fun and great class for that. The way the class works too, especially since I play it 2H and bow, some people may play a little bit differently, but typically when you see Stamblade gameplay, everybody's 2H and bow, and you have to be just quick and elusive and always on your feet. It's very fast, and that's why it gives that assassin feel to it, not only because of the skills, but it's pretty much the class that's always used 2H and bow since the beginning. So in terms of 1v1, it's great because it has such high burst, but you just kind of have to be careful this patch because anything could really burst you back. Same thing with the open world, because it has such high burst, you could just really mow down a bunch of people. You could really one-shot a bunch of people with your DB and things like that. In terms of BGs and like no CP, it's still very great as well because that high burst. The only thing it may lack from time to time is that survivability, but if you play it right and you stay elusive or you stay defensive at the right moments, like blocking at the right times and things like that, and keeping your buffs up, you should be pretty fine. Overall, it's a pretty easy and fun class to play. So I would recommend it to newer players, and there's a reason why newer players use it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, share it up, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe. Have a great day.